everyone, Diane here, welcome to my studio. Today I'm going to have a go at painting something which is an absolute traditional iconic image, which is a couple of Christmas bells nestling in some festive greenery. Absolutely, vintage, that's the word. Vintage style Christmas image. And before I start, I want to show you this, which is my new arrangement for my Kuretake paints. I was lucky enough to acquire this plastic lid the other day, which is actually the lid to a Meeden palette, a rather heavy ceramic palette with all the colours around the outside edge that you squeeze into the spaces, which is great. And I can barely lift it, weighs 8 pounds or something like that. Anyway, I was thinking, I need a better way of dealing with these paints because, the Kuretake ones, they come in this box and that's all fine, blah, blah, blah. But I like to be able to mix my paints in a space. And you can't do that in the box, can you? So I've had to make sort of compromises and improvises with palettes and things, and I haven't been very happy with that. And then yesterday I decided, okay, I need to get my brain into gear and actually follow through with a thought. You know how it is sometimes when you sort of have this idea in the back of your head and you can't quite bring it into reality? It happens more often these days than it used to, but I stepped on the gas and made it happen. And I said, right, this is not impossible. So here we have the mixing space, and I've put all the paints that I use, with the exception of 8 of them, which I tend not to use, which are things like silver and gold and everything. I use different sets for that. Put more on the outside of that. I can paint in the middle. If that runs out, I can use another palette to mix in, of course, as well. And I've put their names too, because there's no question about it. You can't tell what difference is between cadmium scarlet, cadmium red, red, carmine, rose madder deep, and so on. They all look the same, but now they're labelled and they cannot hide. So there we are. So that's that. So I'm putting that to one side, and I'll use that this morning. I'm going to use this brush, which is a Drawwell number 7 round pass cut. I am familiar with that, and I don't want to get confused with my painting today. I am not in the mood. So I'm just drawing here a bow. I have lightly sketched it in, and I'm going to just go over my light sketch a little bit. For these quick Christmas cards, we aren't always doing downloadable sketches for you to have, but I think if I can persuade Tamsin to do it, we'll do this one, because I know how difficult it is to draw a bell shape. It really is. And I think I mentioned this before, but I have to tell you this little story, because when I was about 11 and I was at school, and in the art class, the teacher suggested that we might like to join a competition or to take part in a competition to design a Christmas card. And so we were all frantically designing our own Christmas cards, and it felt like it went on for weeks and weeks. It was probably just a couple of lessons, but it felt like it went on. And I was working with a partner, and we were trying to draw 2 bells just like this, and we could not get it right. And that has always stuck in my mind as being my first artistic failure, Couldn't get it right, couldn't get those bells to work. Not for the life of us could we get it to work. So I don't think we even participated in the competition in the end, or if we did, we certainly didn't win. Because they are difficult, aren't they, bells? They're a funny shape, and quite often you see bells in cards and in paintings and so on that are far from being anything like remotely accurate. Or what does accurate even mean? I mean, there are lots of different bells out there hanging from church steeples and bell towers and so on that are, they can be quite different in, let's say, Italy to the way they look in, let's say, England. And I mean, have you ever been up close to a big bell? I haven't. I've only ever seen them in pictures. Anyway, so first of all, I am putting in some, I put in some baubles, and they are hanging from branches which have yet to acquire their needles, pine needles, and I'm going to put in some holly. So we've got some holly. Don't be afraid of just sticking your leaves growing out of the side of the bell or whatever. It'll look okay in the end. it looks a bit weird at this point, but it's okay. And then, okay, so I'm not going to draw in all the because that will look silly. So I think that's basically it. So let's get started with the painting. I know that's the boring bit, isn't it? Watching me draw. Okay, so let me see. What should we do for a colour scheme? Shall I start with the bells first and paint them in yellow? So, yeah, we're using Kuretake. And this is a mixture of lemon yellow and cadmium yellow here. Let's start with that. I know this isn't ideal, this arrangement I've got here. I'm just going to change the colour slightly, just make it a little bit darker for the second one. And as I always say, don't worry if it runs, it doesn't matter, we don't care. I'm working on a piece of Meeden hot press paper. What was I saying? It doesn't matter if it runs a bit because that just adds to the charm. Just tell yourself that. And I'm doing the inside of the bells in orange. And we will make that a little bit darker still going forward. And then this orangey colour, I'm going to drop a bit more in places, just in places. This is cadmium orange. So we'll just put some of that there, and maybe I'll do it on the rim. Like that. And I think we might do the baubles in gold as well. When I'm decorating my tree at Christmas, I like to stick to, well, having said that, one of the nice things to do, isn't it, is to stick to one kind of colour. And I like gold balls. I do like the golden ones, I have to say. But we're going to add a little bit of red to these, just to make them a bit warmer. And I'm going to add a little bit of red on the inside of these bells. And perhaps a little bit on the top part as well. And then we need to go to red. So let's use, what should we use? You see, this is where it's great because you can pick up some rose madder and you can say, is that the right colour pink? Is that the red I want? Do I want it a little bit darker? Let's add a bit of rose madder dark. And all of a sudden, this set of paints, which has been absolutely marvellous and I really enjoy using them, suddenly becomes even better still because it is possible to mix and mingle your paints on the palette, and I really, really like to be able to do that. So I'm going to add some dark red for the inside of the bow here and put a little bit there for where it's all folded. So the inside of the bow, and we might make that a little bit darker still when it's, yeah, we might not, we'll see. And then the tails of the bow, I'm not going to go right up to the yellow because it will run, because it's not dry yet, but I can finish that off later. So we'll leave that like that. And then this is a super quick one. You know, you do realise this is super quick. You wouldn't normally paint quite this fast, probably, if you were taking your time, because it's holly time. It's, what am I saying? I don't know. Anyway, forget it. Pretend I'm not here. I'm going to just drop in some holly here. A little bit of holly. It doesn't have to be exact, she says, losing patience, as usual. losing patience. I don't know how people paint tiny things and do it all intricate and everything. It's enough to send you around the bend. I think when I'm dead and buried and they put a tombstone up for me and it'll say on it, "She lived life with a broad brush." I think that's what I want to have on my grave. I know I'm getting old and I start thinking about things like that. Right, that's pretty okay. I'm going to dab off some of that green there because that went a bit heavy. And just, yeah. I might use a bit of line work on this. It's possible. I tell you what, actually, for the doodahs, the thingy-whatsits, you know, the things that, what do you call them? The green bits. I think I'm going to try using some of these pens, brush pens, because if you haven't got a set of these, put them on your Christmas list. 96 Poetique brush pens in lots of different colours, and they're particularly strong on the greens. Very good. I'm just picking out some of the greens. Nice turquoisey one there as well. And the thing is, it does make it quicker and easier to do, you know, this, which is what I'm going to do next. Put a line in for the stem, and then, oh yes, oh yes. Of course, the quickest way to do it is to just, you know, go to the computer and say, "Artificial intelligence, create me a watercolor painting, like this, like that, and the other." Yeah, that's not the point, is it? I don't want you to think that I'm doing this in a hurry, because I'm not. It's just that it's nearly lunchtime. And this is fun, actually, using these pens. I do recommend it. This is a nice light one. I'm going to put that somewhere else. And you can put the veins in. And then I'll just scoot back. If I can find my brush, what did I do with it? Scoot back to the red, and we'll put some holly berries in here. And perhaps we'll put some down here too. And you just want to vary the size of the strokes and everything, and you can just, you know, there's lots of different fir trees out there, and they're all a little bit different, aren't they? The Norwegian spruce that we have over here for our Christmas trees, I don't think you necessarily have that type in America or Canada. I think your trees are a little bit different from ours, so their needles might be a bit different. Remember when we went to live in Canada and we went looking for Christmas trees and we hardly recognised them. Beautiful though, big, huge. Here they tend to be a little bit kind of Feek and Weeble, the kind of hairless, typical, like the French. No, don't say anything about the French. Don't mention the French. I love the French. They're wonderful. Not very keen on the French weather, though. God. Yep, these work really well. They do, yes. And with these, if they do go a bit dry, which they can do, I think you can refill them, although I haven't really looked into that. I think you can. I'll put some more berries up top here. You can dip them in water. I was going to say you can dip them in water to liven them up a little bit more. And of course, all of this that I'm doing, because I'm doing it quickly with my Kuretake brushes, all of this you could do with a regular brush and regular paint and so on and so forth. Can you hear the wind out there? Well, I'm going to have to stop in a second and have a look and see what I've done, because I have no idea. I'll just put some green around here to just fill in these gaps. And I did say that I would come back with the red, didn't I? And finish off the bow. And we need a little bit of darker red on the inside of the bow here and here, I think. Might want to add a bit of black to it to make it even darker. And down here, perhaps. Fill in some of those white bits. You let that dry. It'll look better when it's dry. You know that. We have established that, haven't we? And let's put a little bit more yellow on here to give it a bit more shape. And I think we've got quite a long way to go yet, actually. We're not done yet. The clapper, I believe that's called. The thing that makes the bell go ring. And then we put a little bit more shadow around the rim there. And we could have sort of like a decorative band going around there. Maybe we have a green line as well. Okay. I think I need a lighter, a sort of gold color to do the stem, not stems, the string or the hanger on the baubles. So we just put that in using this yellowy color. The top bit, make that yellow. You will find, actually, you definitely will find these pens are very helpful for your creativity, really. And here you go, you see, you can come into the green, which might be a little bit on the blue side, and you can just change the color just by going over it a little bit. You can also use the points to give you a nice sharp holly point if you want to do that. You want to make them a bit more, you know, realistic. Okay, I think I'll let that dry and come back and then finish it off. Okay, so I'm just going to add a few more pine or fir sprigs down the bottom here, because having sort of stood back and looked at it a little bit, I'm kind of thinking, yeah, needs a few more down here. Perhaps, although it doesn't have to have any more, and I think I'll just change that colour there. Maybe that wants to be a bit darker. And we're just kind of, you know, just put the background in there a little bit behind the bell. And maybe make this a little bit darker because it's behind again the bell. Maybe here as well, a few strokes. Just to give it a little bit more shape, you know. And yeah, I mean, you could go on, but sometimes knowing when to stop is a good thing, and sometimes you just stop because you're I've had enough of that for one day, I think. You might say to yourself, I'm fed up with that. I don't know, it didn't work. But if you feel, oh, it didn't work, the thing to do, and I honestly suggest this is very important if you're just a beginner and you haven't really sort of thought about this, don't judge your painting. And I'm going to tell you something scientific here. Don't judge your painting on what you see when you finish painting it after an hour or so of doing what I'm doing. Don't judge it because, and the reason is this, this thing about after images, this is my theory anyway. You know how if you look at a bright light, when you look away, you'll see something in your eyes that's not really there. That's called an after image, isn't it? And I think that affects the way you see your painting. So I think, personally, that what you have to do is, when you finish painting it, you have to stop and you go away and come back later and look at it again and you'll see that it looks different. Now, some people say that's because the elves have been to work, and it could be that too. But I, after many years of wondering about this, because it's definitely true, I think it's something to do with after images or a sort of habituation of the brain. You kind of get used to what you're doing and you can't see it right. And then there's the other thing too, which is that you don't see your work the same way that other people do. So when you've finished, or you're nearly finished like this, or you think, oh, I probably am finished, I've had enough of it, or I need a cup of tea, or whatever, then you stop, you go away and come back a bit later and you say, is that good enough? It's fine, it's great, it'll do, it's okay. And there we go. So there are my two happy bells. I'm going to write Happy Christmas, or actually what I was going to do, and I probably should before I say goodbye, if I can find my gold pen. What I was going to do, I was going to write Noel on the edge of the bell, And here I was going to write, what was it? I was going to put Merry Christmas, just to give it a little bit of, and then that's the other thing also, you could come in onto your bells with a pen and just do some little kind of embellishments just to play around and make it more fun. That's what it's all about, isn't it? I think. Yep. Okay then, I'm going to let you go now. See you again soon, everybody. Bye for now. Bye-bye.